Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Path Radio Spotlight. I am your host, Guido Prino, excited to bring you double the pleasure with Mark Boals and Bjorn Englen. You may know them from some of their work with Malmsteen, Dokken, Nugget, Riot, Dio, and more, but they continue to carve out a melodic path with their super band, Soul Sign. Mark, Bjorn, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight?
Hi,
Thank
thanks for having me. Great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, pleasure.
Right on. A pleasure to have you both on the show, indeed, and thank you for doing this us with here in Canada, up in Toronto. But I gotta ask, how crazy? Speaking of places and locations, how crazy is the music world that a guy from I think Youngstown, Ohio, and Växjö, Sweden. Hopefully, I said that right, Bjorn. Cross.
Close.
Was I close? Was I good?
You were pretty close, man. That was impressive. Yeah,
I went with the northern pronunciation. I don't
yeah.
know.
Extra the northern Swedish. Yes, you're right. You
Right
say it
on.
more appropriate than I do.
See, I did my homework. So how crazy is it that you guys from these, far apart places, you come together to play music on multiple projects through your career? When's the first time you guys meet, and what do you remember from that?
What I
That's a
I
good
remember
if you're
meeting. I remember meeting Mark briefly. I think at backstage at a Nam jam, and we're about to both jam with Uli John Roth, and that's when we met briefly the first time. And then we ended up a year later. We ended up doing some shows with Uli, and
I
obviously,
think I might have met you when you were in Quiet Riot. I think so.
I think I met you. I met you like once at the Nam show, something like that, way back then in the late '90s or something.
Yeah, it was so long ago, but yeah, we had quite a bit since then. So it's hard to remember that many years ago. But yeah,
Yeah,
I have fond memories of all the times we've been together because we've done some really fun stuff. So
You
and we're
mentioned you mentioned Nam. That would have been in LA, right?
that
yeah,
was
that's the big
L.A.
music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Orange County usually. Southern, like Anaheim is normally where they
Right.
hold it. Yeah.
Um, so okay, we've got Ohio, we've got Sweden, we've got Anaheim, LA, we've got Nam, we got a bunch of these places. Where do you guys spend a lot of your time now?
Well, I'm in Los Angeles since 31 years, so that's where I do all my work when I'm not touring, which haven't been too much of lately. So yeah, I've been here many years.
And Mark?
Yeah, well, I'm in Vegas, like I was telling you before the show. I've been here for 9 years, and before that, I was in LA for about 35 years. So
Wow.
I guess was, at least back in the days of the 80s and the 90s, it was the meeting up point for all the musicians of the world, especially if you were in the rock or metal scene. Everybody came to LA back in those days. So uh, I mean, I met everybody there. It was a great time. And Bjorn, do you think you were around in the 90s there, weren't you?
Yeah, I got here in '93, so I kind of went through the the craziness of the '90s, the mid '90s, and all that stuff. So it went through. Well, it wasn't the same anymore, obviously, since before I moved here, but it was still an interesting city to come to from a small town of Sweden for sure.
You guys talk about that LA scene and having transitioned or gone through it, and then the transitions that it's gone through. Like it was, we often refer to eras as many things, and there's obviously a golden era, but as far as the rock scene, man, that was an era that you guys are talking about. You think we'll ever have that same feeling that we had during that time frame when it comes to rock? Like we've transitioned. It seems like we've gone through a period and we're on the up. I feel like we're back on the upswing when it comes to rock. But do you think we'll have that feeling that we had, like when you talked about 93 and that era?
Well,
Well,
I
I hope so.
never.
That was fantastic. Go ahead, Bjorn. I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
Sorry. Yeah, no, to me, the '90s were very depressing. I hope we'll never get back to that. Well, could we get back to the way Sunset Strip was in the late '80s? I mean, I wasn't here, or mid
Uh,
'80s. I highly doubt that as well. But I think it's taken a long time for things to try to repair from all that. Whatever happened in the early '90s that kind of ruined everything. But I think United States seemed to been more affected by that
Yeah.
whole wave and all that stuff than the rest of the world. Like metal was like flourishing in the mid '90s, late '90s, and all these
Yeah.
European festivals and South American festivals were like blowing up. And so I don't know. I don't think it's a matter of like, well, would this style of music or this and that come back? I think it's more a matter of like the scary thing about the people, AI, for example,
Yeah.
recording and writing and recording songs. That's to me is scarier than the trends and all that stuff. That'll kind of work itself out most likely. But
Mark, you were gonna weigh in there too.
well, I mean, I was in LA in the '80s. I was in that scene, and man, it was unbelievable. There were just people in the Hollywood, anyway, the Hollywood Strip, from the Whiskey on down to Gazzari's. It's a long stretch of road, and it was just crowded every single night of the week, mobbed with people down, and people driving their cars up and down so you could see who's there, and everybody ends up at the Rainbow after that, and the Rainbow
Yeah.
would close, but parking lot till 4 or 5 in the morning every single night. And you just, I mean, I'd never seen anything like it, and I loved it, man. It was just great,
Yeah,
incredible.
I just, even listening to you talk about it, I'm putting myself there and I'm loving that feeling. And, Bjorn, you talked about how it was a little bit depressing in that 93 range, or that early 90 range. And it's interesting because so you're feeling that in LA, but I don't think there was a movement there happening or something. I think outside of there, like for us up in Northern Ontario and other places, I think we were feeling Seattle was like the depressing thing. And we didn't really associate that with LA. I think we hung on to what LA was for that rock music for a little bit longer than that. Although that slice of depression certainly did exist. And I remember going through it thinking to myself, what's going on, man? What's
well,
going on?
I think
Right?
most
But
places in the world are less flavor of the week, so to speak, than
yeah,
Los Angeles for sure. But I mean, here because of the nature of Los Angeles, it was kind of like the whole grunge thing was imported, and everybody was like, a lot of bands that weren't even grunge bands didn't even like grunge. Like, we're like, well, we have to play grunge now so we can get signed. It was kind of pathetic. But LA's always been strange, and for good and for bad. Sometimes following the trends is not a very good thing at all.
yeah.
So I think that was the problem with that. I think you're absolutely right. When I travel and stuff, people still. I was touring with Quiet Riot in '95 and
Yeah.
midnight, and it was people went crazy. It was still, rock. You can't take it out. People like something, you can't take it out of their hearts. If they love the music, then it doesn't really matter what the business is like, or the trends and any of that stuff. So
Yeah, there's certainly a foundation there. Mark, you're a big, metal rock music guy. Now, is it because like you said, hey, I kind of was in LA for 30 some odd years, but what got you into metal in the first place? Was what pulled you in? What made you a rock and roll guy?
It was, I guess, I've always been presented with opportunities after opportunities, and I just kind of go with the flow, and that's where it led me. I mean, I moved to LA in 1984. It was the height of the metal scene, and I was basically a kind of a blues rock kind of a guy, but I got sucked into metal very fast, and I liked it. I mean, I like all kinds of music, but my voice is suited really well for metal, so I was able to do really well really quickly, and you know uh, I get sucked into the scene. And I mean, since I heard the first Black Sabbath record, when it first came out, and I was a little kid, I bought the album because I liked the cover. I didn't even know anything about Black Sabbath, but I got hooked on that album. Really, I think from there on, I started searching out bands like that just to listen to. I wasn't playing that kind of music, but I loved listening to it. And yeah, that I remember distinctly buying that album because of the witch on the front cover, and it just looks so weird. Like, what kind of music is this band play? And I put it on, and it was freaking amazing. So, and then after that, I got into Deep Purple, and which wasn't as metal, but the singing, Ian Gillan's voice, because I always listened to the singer. I mean, Ozzy sang great back then. He still does, no matter what people say.
Yeah.
He has some times when he's not doing well at all, but man, you can't take it away from him. The legend, he's the
Yeah.
legend.
Guy's been doing it for so many years. And what's interesting that you mentioned there is you went to the record store and bought something based on the cover of the album. And
That's
I was thinking, as I remember doing that. I'd go down to Sam the Record Man. I'd be like, "Okay, I don't know who any of these bands are, but I'm gonna buy these three. I like the cover." Okay, and you'd go home and you'd be like, "Hey man, that's really cool," and you'd buy it just by the art, right? By the
yeah,
art. I, I
absolutely.
feel like that's not there anymore either. Like
No,
it's
no,
Right.
it's
Yeah,
not
the
there at
dates
all.
when
I
you
remember
had the,
all
sorry,
album,
go.
the Aqualung. I saw that cover was incredible too. Aqualung cover.
yeah.
The homeless guy. It was like a painting though. So I don't know. There was a
Bjorn,
lot. Go ahead.
Bjorn, you were gonna say something
Oh
real
no,
quick.
I was gonna say like that's a beautiful part of the whole vinyl, the days of the vinyl and the big covers and the artwork kind of had a big place. And you open it up and the lyrics, and you sat and you read the lyrics while you listening to the music and all that stuff. And you know, um, I kind of just loved how you open it up and how the new print would smell and
Yeah.
you know it's something that times have changed, but that was a cool thing. I would ride my bicycle or take the bus downtown to pick up a new record or something. It was always exciting moments.
Bjorn, what's crazy is that nowadays I'll still, even though I have a digital copy, I love to have a hard copy, and I'll go out of my way if it's there to buy that copy and to still open it and peel it open and all that stuff. I love that. I love that experience.
Hmm.
Bjorn, you started out as a drummer, I believe, right? And then you switched over to bass?
Well, it was kind of brief, very briefly. My mom brought home a smaller kid size kit that she bought at an auction, I think. To my surprise, I was like very surprised that she'd want to bring a noisy drum kit into the house, which I don't know if she really was knew what she was doing. But I just realized too that it was like the neighbors gave me weird looks, and I was only like 13, whatever, but like and then I'm looking at all the stands and the screws and the cymbals, and I didn't know how to tune the drums. I'm like going like, you know what? And I had already like thought of playing the bass and kind of like to be more mobile on stage too. So I switched over pretty quickly, but um, no regrets really. Although drums seem to be a really fun instrument, you have to really. It's not just that having a sense of rhythm. You have to really practice and get the coordination and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm not great at any instrument, but drums for sure. I'm not.
yeah,
But I think that's kind of cool. Um,
yeah. But I switched bass, and it wasn't. Everybody asked me like, was it because of Steve Harris or any specific bass player? It really
yeah,
wasn't. It was more bands I listened to, even like AC/DC and Judas Priest, where the bass was pretty simple typically. I really liked it, and I think I knew that I heard the bass, and I think a lot of people didn't realize that they thought the bass was either drums or guitar. I don't think
yeah.
a lot of people realized where to put it in the picture of the sound. But I loved it, and then little by little, and there's neighbors across the street that my neighbor had a punk band, I should say, and his friend played bass in the band, and I would be in the garage watching them rehearse and stuff, and I would just in awe of the bass, how it was just massive instrument with these big strings, and I'm going like, is he only pushing like one note at a time? And it sounds so big. I was just blown away. And that from that moment on, it was like no looking back. I wasn't even thinking about the guitar or drums or anything. So
No, you know what? That's kind of cool. Like that you were able to hone in on the bass sound and you picked that up and you kind of just fell in love with that. It wasn't just that, well, I think I'm just going to play this instrument sort of thing. And sometimes that happens, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, no. So, and Mark, you if I got this wrong, you correct me. I thought you primarily played bass and then you transitioned to lead vocals, although you still occasionally dabble in bass, I think.
Yeah, I still play bass and some stuff, and I've
Yeah.
played bass in some famous bands over the years. I Here's the truth, okay? I always wanted to be a singer since I was 5, but I was really shy, and I could play bass and kind of hide, behind the rest of the band. And but there was more to it than that. I just like Bjorn. I saw these bands that they had an amusement park where they would the radio station would bring in concerts from national acts and international acts. I saw really great bands when I was like 11 years old, and I honed in on the bass too. I just loved the vibration of it and the power. And so I got my first bass when I was 9. And the first bands I got into, I played bass. I didn't tell anybody I wanted to sing, but the singers were usually not any good. So I would like start singing a song or two, and after a while, I'd be singing almost all the songs and playing bass at the same time.
Oh,
And
wow.
but as I got older and my career went along, and I had played with Ted Nugent and I played with Savoy Brown, and I've been touring and stuff. I started realizing that I wanted, and I missed out on some auditions only because I was playing bass, because I wasn't a frontman. I had some experiences where the record label said, "No, we need a frontman." I said, "Well, I can just sing." They said, "No, you're a bass player. Can't have a frontman bass player." So when I didn't tell anybody I played bass. I just told them I was a singer. So I cured that problem. New city, new people, nobody knew me, and
Wow.
that's the next. So I was singing with Yngwie Malmsteen. So
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, so you actually got labeled for playing the bass and they wouldn't let you look at another role in the band, eh?
no, it happened more than once, but there was a big thing that happened with Atlantic Records. They liked my voice, but they didn't want a lead singing bass player. So
Wow.
even though there are lots of lead singing bass players, they just didn't have a concept on that. So anyway.
Now, with both of you having some of that bass experience, and you guys are in the band together, how does that work out? Like, does it help the band out, or are there moments where you guys are talking about anything like that, or is it just something that you don't even think about? Just you guys play and you're all good.
Well,
No,
Mark
well,
gives me credit all the time. He doesn't do that to the other guys because he knows he notices if I do stuff that's not and I'm kidding.
yeah,
He does. But it's
Bjorn,
no,
Bjorn is
I
the
look at if Mark digs the bass lines, that says a lot. Being a bass player himself, and stuff. So
well, I've never actually given you criticism, Bjorn, because you're always doing it right. I mean, I listen to it, believe me, and I think the last comments that I've given you recently are like, how do you get that bass sound on the recording? It's fucking amazing, because he gets a really great bass sound, and he's a great player, and besides that, I love the guy. He's a fantastic human being. So, yeah, there's nothing. I have no place with brother Bjorn. We
That's
get
right
along.
on. That's right on. I'm feeling the love here. I'm feeling the love between you guys.
cool.
Listen, you guys have mentioned a few folks that you've played with. You've both the list of folks you've played with. Long list of citing credentials. You've mentioned Malmsteen, Nugent, Priest, Dio, Riot, Dokken, Roth, GNR, Whitesnake. Like it just goes on and on. The folks that you've played with. Looking back on those moments, what do each of you, and maybe I'll start with Mark. What do each of you collectively and personally or professionally take away from having worked with such a broad range of talent?
Well, there's no substitution for experience. I mean, all those experiences add to for me myself add to my palette of creativity, of how I see music in as a whole, because and also I see how uh the politics and the business of music is with bands that are very successful and bands that have problems. So you learn a lot through those experiences, and it just becomes part of me. Becomes part of my palette of you know, songwriting and performing, all of the, you know, things that we do.
Mark, is part of what you said there, is a big part of it relationships?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean that has a big part of successful bands. Although there's a lot of successful bands that hate each other and they just work it out so they can work together. I have
Yeah.
been in situations that were less than optimal, where the band could not get along off stage, but on stage it was great. You know, the playing was great, and the chemistry happened on stage. But as soon as there was any off stage time,
That was it.
it was not a pretty picture. So,
How
but I
about
try situations, you know.
how
And
about
I
you?
think uh, uh, what Mark said about, like, or you both said about, like, liking the people, and I think the older I get, even though it's something I probably always knew, like the older you get, you're more clear with it, that how important it is. It's like everything almost. It's like if you know, so it's a huge part of, you know, being able to work with someone and not just get good results, but having fun, which kind of goes hand in hand, you know. So, and people being respectful and all that stuff to one another.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think,
I can't imagine, like, you know, all the, like I said, all the talent you guys have worked with in and out with each other, et cetera, as you're, you know, maneuvering and just seeing all these different dynamics and then making it all work. It's just a credit to both of you that you know you've been able to do that as well, right?
yeah,
Thanks.
we're either crazy or we're survivors or both.
Or both. You both mentioned Malmsteen, and Mark, I think for you, you were with Malmsteen, you left, you came back. What was the, like, the in and out there? Was that just situational or by design, or?
No, it's definitely not by design. It was just I always respected his talent, and he was one of those people that you know, on stage most of the time everything was great because his talent was amazing, and there was a chemistry that happened with the bands back then. But off stage it was really tough, and the business end of it was really messed up, and the management was messed up. It was complete chaos. Uh, and so I left the band in the 80s, and then I came back in the 90s thinking that it would be different. But so I stuck around for a little while. It wasn't different. A couple of years later, I got an offer to go back again, and he had different management. I thought maybe it'd be different. It still wasn't different. It was just different management and different problems. So it was just a lot of problems, but musically it was always rewarding. But
Yeah.
it was too many, you know, ancillary uh, nightmares.
I get it. Situational, but like you said earlier, sometimes you have the situation, but you're still able to produce some good music. But
Yeah.
you know, the balance of it in the end, you kind of find for different, maybe different opportunities. And one of those opportunities for you, Mark, I think you took a short break from music for a while. I think you did some cinematography with Warner Brothers.
Yeah, I worked on the Warner Brothers lot for a while. That was after I quit Yngwie, because I was just so fed up with I thought, if that's what the music business is all about, I don't really think I want to do it. But I
Wow.
couldn't stay. I couldn't stay away.
What brought you back?
Um, I just did because I knew the knowledge that this is what I was supposed to do. I mean, I knew deep down inside since I was a kid that I'm supposed to do music, and I won't be happy unless I'm doing music. So,
Right.
um,
It was your calling. It was your calling, and you knew it.
yeah, definitely.
Now, Bjorn, while you've been gracing the airwaves with other acts as well, you've been part of Soul Sign since '95. Are you a founding member?
Yes, I am. It was something I started with a good friend of mine, Magnus Anderson, who is also from Sweden, and he's a great guy and great songwriter, and he's a guitar player. And we started the band, we started jamming and writing some songs, and we started auditioning like drummers and singers, and it was very, very tough to find the right people. And again, it was I think a lot of the great players had left town, and or they were already touring or in bands and things like that. So we did some stuff, and we recorded some demos and things like that. And then he went on to pursue other things. And in the late '90s, I put a lineup together that was pretty good, and you know, and again, it was people I knew. And then since before that, I worked with before in other bands, friends of mine typically and stuff like that. And we did a lot of good shows just around California. And then, excuse me, and then the band kind of took a break for a while, for a few years, and we started working on some material again. So it's just kind of been, unfortunately, something that's been sort of on hold a lot because of everybody being a working musician. And I think that's the sometimes the problem when you're, if you want to succeed with a band, you almost have to, you don't have to, but sometimes it's a good idea to maybe not work with music and have a day gig, and then your only musical focus is the band. You know, looking back, that seemed to be sort of a good formula sometimes. You know, but on the other hand, the good thing about working as a musician, you learn and you grow like no other. You know, and I'm grateful for spending a lot of the '90s being a session guy and recording all over Los Angeles and touring with different bands and playing gigs all the time, not just rock music, but other styles as well. So, you know, no regrets. Things could have been done differently, and the band could have been pushed sooner, you know, but since this lineup, which has pretty much been intact for the last 10 years or so, it's been solid. And I feel like we finally have a band that where everybody mutually respects one another and like each other, and the level of musicianship is just off the charts. So it's and all great people, you know. So that's and so it's not easy to get to that point. I guess my point is,
Bjorn, it almost sounds like, if I listen to you talk about Soul Sign, like you did all this other stuff, but Soul Sign is a bit of home, if you will.
Absolutely. And it's easy to get distracted, unfortunately. You get on all these tours, and then it comes another band and they want to hire you, and you can't say no because you got to pay your bills. And you know, you also, I think it's important for a musician to think of the career as an individual also, not just the band that they're pursuing. So it's kind of a fine balance there, really.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of other bands do it too, where there's the side projects and they go do all these other things. I'm always in awe, if you listen to any of my other shows, I'm always in awe when I hear that you are able to go into these other bands and then able to, like, you're you, but you still achieve the sound of that band. I'm in complete awe of that over and over, because I just think, wow, the fact that you can go in and play that style or come out with that sound where you know, every band has their own sound. It's something that I you know, I'm inspired by, if you will, as well.
Yeah.
Bjorn, who reaches out to Mark to get him to be the singer? Is that you? And you know, you reach out, you go, yeah, that's our guy. That's the guy that's gonna be our vocals. That's him. Like, who's that?
Well, before Mark joined, we you know, obviously we had a different singer before, and we knew he was leaving. He wanted to pursue, you know, playing more pop music and do his own solo career and everything. We remained really good friends and everything, but he decided to leave, and we had a last show with him come up, and we're at, after rehearsal, we're at Starbucks, the three of us, me and Mike and Rob, and Mike goes, so what are we going to do now? We don't have a singer, and you know, who are we going to get? And Mike goes, the drummer says, hey, do you know Mark Boals? I said, yes, I do. I just did some, you know, shows with him recently with Uli Roth and stuff. And he's like, well, call him. So I just called, I picked up the phone and called Mark right there from Starbucks, and that was it. I said yes. So.
And Mark, you remember getting that call?
I know, yes, but I never heard this story. But I always had a feeling that Mike, the drummer, he's always been my biggest cheerleader. He's always been like a fan of mine, and he doesn't make a secret of it. So now I know the history. So it was his idea to call me. All right, that's
So
okay. But I was happy to get the call because I always loved working with Bjorn. We had worked together on more than one occasion with more than one band. So it was a really easy fit for me to come in, and you know, it felt like home. This band does feel like home to me too, because we've been doing it kind of part time for a long time, and now we're moving into full time kind of.
yeah,
Right.
and you know what? I think Mike, if you're listening, Mike, when you listen to this, Mark's gonna give you a big hug next time he sees you, as he just found out that you said, "Hey, give Mark a shout." But yeah, it's almost like you leave home, you go do all these other things, but you always know you're gonna come back and you're gonna have this group of guys, and this is home, and this is what you guys are gonna produce. And look, we've dropped a couple of the other band member names. Soul Sign lineup includes yourselves, Rob Math on guitar, Mike Canasino on drums. Um, we've now learned that Mike said call Mark. Where does Rob come in? Like, how do you guys form up the lineup? Was Rob already there, Bjorn?
Rob was already there.
Yeah.
So Rob actually joined back in 2010 on short notice, and that was pretty much history. And he left the band for a few years and came back recently. Mike joined like shortly after, and Mark joined shortly after that. So it was pretty much all at the same time, more or less, that this formation of the band took place. And yeah, did I answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah, and y'all gelled and from there. I just wanted to get everybody's name in of the whole band so everybody listening knows, and we're gonna have it in the show notes too. Um,
Yeah, sort of
I
natural choice. Like obviously we met gigs or met at different places, and it was just kind of briefly, like when I with Mike, for example, we needed a drummer, and we had some shows come up, and I couldn't find a drummer, and I never made more than 2 phone calls ever to find a musician. I can't do it, but I know a guy, that kind of thing. I talked to over 40 people, and nobody was available. And then I went back to the guy that was the number one on my list, which was Mike's brother, but I didn't call him because he was always busy. He's a great guy, great drummer. And so I called him, and I said, I'm out of options. So I said, I told him, and he said, well, I can't do the gig. And I said, well, but do you know someone? He said, yeah, I'll send my brother, and that was basically the that was it, and then Mike came in. We did a couple of gigs with us, and then I said, here's a CD, pick a couple of songs and come in about a week or two. And then so I called him up and I said, so which 2 songs did you pick? He said, it doesn't matter, I know the whole record. So me and Rob show up. It was just the 3 of us, and Mike's already been there. Mike drove 2 hours to get to the rehearsal studio, and he's there like an hour before us, and he's set up, and he's got smoke coming out behind him. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Did you bring like a smoke machine or something? Turns out it's an espresso maker. And he got 3 coffee mugs lined up for everybody, and he goes like, okay guys, let's go. And then so we start the first song, and then in the middle of the song, Mike just stops playing, and he stands up and he goes, stop. It doesn't go 2 times before the second pre-chorus. It goes 3 times. Let's do it again. So that's how he kind of gave himself the gig. So that was, and
wow.
such a great, lovely guy, and we get along great, and he's funny, and it's just a blast. So, and stylistically, he's perfect. So it's just
right.
no back, and the same thing with Rob. I met Rob at the NAMM show, and I was going like, by talking to him, I can kind of tell what kind of guitar player he was. I was like, how do you know that? I'm going, well, you kind of get the sense that you play like this or that. And he goes like, wow, that's crazy. So I checked out a couple of videos of his, and then we had some shows come up in Sweden, and the guitar player kind of bailed at the last minute. So I called Rob and I said, we got to talk. And so Rob came over to my house, and we're hanging out and we're talking, and we're trying to figure out the logistics and how are we going to make money and all this stuff. And and we had a couple of shots of tequila, and then he leaves, and so I was like, okay, I'll see you later, and then he drives away, and I'm like, no, stop, hold on, we forgot to jam. We didn't even jam. We kind of clicked. We just kind of knew, I think, that this will be cool. So it was kind of like, again, how you click on a personal level really, really, means a lot. So there was no looking back. He stylistically just a monster player, and great at improvising, and just this bluesy kind of shred style. It works really well for us.
Bjorn, those are great stories. It's like they belong in a book or something. Those are great stories. Mark, you were gonna say something there at one point.
I was saying about Rob. I mean, he's already said a lot about Mike. Mike's an incredible guy, and he's one of a kind, and he's a really great drummer. I played with some of the best drummers in the world, and he's right up there with them. But Rob, now, when I first came to sing with, when I got that phone call from Bjorn, I went into the rehearsal space and I heard Rob play, and yeah, this is a good band. This is a really good band. But then Rob got busy and he couldn't do it, and then we were playing with another guitar player for a while, and things just kind of slowed down, and I think it just couldn't work. It wasn't meant to work without Rob. I think, because as soon as Rob came back, the band started moving forward again, and things just clicked. It's sometimes there's a weird chemistry that a band only works with the right people. It's hard to get that right combination, and these three guys they're some of the best I've ever worked with, and I think we're going to do really good stuff. We're already doing really good. Just need people to.
You guys,
chemistry, and like there's a million bazillion guitar players out there that, for example, but finding the right one is not easy. You got to click on so many different levels and stuff. So yeah.
I mean, look at if it's home and you're building a family, you got to have the right members in the family, and everybody's got to have their role to contribute to it. Look, when we first started talking, we talked a little bit about Los Angeles. We talked a little bit about Las Vegas. If I'm the guest, at one of your shows that's introducing you, I'm gonna say, and now from blah 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 is Soul Sign. What city am I announcing you guys from?
Oh, the band. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll let Mark answer that. But we're actually almost in 4 different places now. So,
What would I say? Now from weighing in at X
well,
pounds.
I guess originally we were all in Los Angeles, more or less, and we sort of mostly are, me and Rob live in LA, but Mike lives out in the Palm Desert, which is two hours from LA, and Marcus in Vegas. So I guess you could say LA kind of originally, but
Yeah, it's an LA band. It's an LA band.
Or maybe how about now from the Sun States? No, I don't know. I'm just making stuff up here.
yeah. In fact, of our record coming out is Desert Fire, and that's also a story that, like, kind of, me and Mike were tracking the drums out in his garage. We're mic'd up the drum kit, and I look up, and I hadn't been to his studio because we already like rehearsed out in LA and stuff like that. So I think it was my first time in the studio, and I look, and I see this, like, all this black, the walls all black and the ceiling's all black. I'm like, what happened? Did you have a fire here? And he goes like, yeah, I was out like watering the plants one day, and I lit some incense in the garage, and I guess they fell over and the wall caught on fire. And his daughter was only like 10 years old at the time, and she goes, Dad, the house is on fire. And luckily he had the garden hose going. He was watering the lawn or the plants or whatever. So he puts the fire out because of that. Because if he didn't have that handy, and God knows. And so the daughter calls his wife and says, Mom, like, the fire department just left the house is on fire. There's smoke coming out all over the place. And so she's freaking out. But fast forward, this is before I knew him. We're in there tracking drums, and I go to take a break, and I open the door, and I see there's a fire in the hills. And I'm going, fire in the desert? How could there be fire in the desert? There's nothing that can burn here. There's this big flame shooting up behind the mountain. I'll never forget. So So I named his garage the Desert Fire Studios, and then we wrote a song called Desert Fire, which is about kind of about working together and tracking in the desert and stuff. So
Leave it to a bunch of creative guys to turn a fire into a song and artwork and and all of that.
yeah, it's I
Um,
think the best way to do things is like you write about your life and
yeah.
even in experiences as a band. Every time you play that song, you think about good old times and stuff.
So guys, the name Soul Sign, is that was that born because you know the actual soul signs, like you know people look for their soul sign? Is that how it came to be?
Actually, no, it was we were searching for a name way back when we first started it, and it was me and my friend Magnus, and he didn't really like the name,
Hmm.
and I I thought soul. There was some of the Soul Asylum, Collective Soul, and a lot of bands with the soul in it, and I could agree with that. But Soul Sign sounded a little mysterious and kind of darker, and I didn't think of it as like the soul sign. What's your soul sign and all that stuff. I didn't think of it that way. I just thought it could be like a very mysterious meaning. It could mean a lot of different things, and I guess it was a little bit also like this is rock, hard rock, but it's got soul, that kind of thing too. Plus, uh, yeah, I thought it was a good name, and yeah, pretty much it. And at times, it's been like, well, I don't know. The word soul could be misleading as far as stylistically what the band's all about. But again, a name's a name, and I
Yeah.
think once people associate your name with the music, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, for example, it's they don't really think of it as what the name really means or anything like that.
The
That's my belief.
the old saying, "A rose by any other names is still a rose." If you're going to play a certain style of music and people get to know it, then that's what they're going to associate with Soul Sign with. Sticking with names, the album in 2011, "Life in the Dark." Are we transitioning from "Life in the Dark" to "Out of the Dark" with your latest single, "Out of the Dark" White Room cover?
That was part of the reason why we named the intro that, or I should say, I named the intro that because it needed a name, right? And I thought it was good for coming out of the dark into a white room mysteriously, or coming out of the dark into brighter times. And that's kind of like what the there's a track off the album called Brighter Day, and we thought of maybe calling the record Brighter Day as well. It's definitely coming out of the dark, and it's the lyrics are, mostly a little brighter, I would
Yeah.
say, this time around, and the music as well. The first record had some good songs, but I think we're a little bit more about melody and blues in a different way than that record was. A little maybe had some depressing tones to it. Although
It's a journey. It's a journey, Bjorn. And I like band journeys where you have sort of some transition between you know, where there's a story to tell. I love stories. Why the cover of such an epic song with White Room? And you know, and what's Mark, how do you put your vocal twist, you know, knowing you're going to do that? How do you put your vocal twist on that? How do you approach it?
Well, I mean, I really didn't do a lot to change the melody or anything like that. I just put a little different attitude on it. I bolsified it. I bolsified it, and I put this little bit of style that is the soul sign vocals on it, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a great song, and it's a classic, and it's a legendary song, and it's fun to do. So pretty much a no-brainer. I just kind of just my attitude.
Yeah, you gave it some gears, that's for sure. Like you can hear that. What's the decision to do that? What's the decision to do a cover like that, Bjorn?
Well, it came up. Our management company that were became our management company. There were friends that we worked with in different ways, but we were discussing, and he discussing the band and discussing them managing the band, and we were talking, and they said, well, we think, you know, before you release the album, we think you guys should do a cover of a famous song. And I said, oh yeah, might be a good idea. And he said, I think it'll be a great idea. And then so I immediately thought of White Room. You know, I just love the bass line. I love Jack Bruce. I just love the song.
Yeah.
But then we all agree that we need to change the arrangement. We need to cut out some of the long intros and some of the things and cut the middle section in half. And it's kind of like something we did. And also the label, or our management company, I should say, was suggesting that why don't you guys just go straight into the chorus? And so what happened was I decided on, I thought White Room was great and going into the chorus. And then one night my girlfriend put on some sleep music for us to sleep to. And it was just all this mellow stuff. And then this chord progression was looping probably for like 8 hours, you know? And I kept waking up in the middle of the night and I'm going like, Rob should do a solo to that chord progression. That'd be killer. You know, I just heard him just wailing over that, you know, and as part of maybe his solo live or something like that. But then I got this idea and I'm like, we could do something similar, but use it as an intro. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and all I hear is like, in this white room, like how that intro goes into the song. I'm going, that's it, you know. So it wasn't intentional. It was just something that happened to, you know, meant to be, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, meant to be. And you run this you know, when you do the covers, you know, you don't want to do the exact same thing because then you're like, oh, it's just a cover. And when you spice it up the way you did, or when you make those rearrangements and it sounds good, that's when the fans go, hey man, that's really cool. That's something, you know, I'm not listening to the original, but this is really cool what's going on here. So kudos on that song. Love it. Love the arrangement. Love the sound of it. What should we expect next from Soul Sign in the coming months?
Well, we're going to plan, obviously, releasing the record in August, August 10, most likely. And then from there, we have a couple of singles we got to put out. Or first, we have one out already called Clean Soil. We have to put a second single in between out, and we have a video for that already, and then possibly a third one. So that's and you know, get back into the rehearsals and play some shows coming up around the release. Is the idea, the plan.
Any particular place you guys are thinking of doing some live stuff, or different, like LA, Los Angeles, working it out still?
Certainly, LA's always a tough place, unfortunately. Although we have a lot of friends and colleagues and associates here that would certainly, you know, we could pack a place, but it's always, you know, it's not necessarily the greatest, unfortunately, town to play in. People are kind of people are spoiled, and but we're thinking maybe do something here, Las Vegas, and maybe in Nashville to start with.
Nashville, awesome. Well, we'd always welcome you up here in Canada, that's for sure. Look, you have a really nice looking website, soulsignband.com. A lot of content going on there, a lot of links to your other stuff. But having said that, is that where you want us fans to get our fix? Or sometimes I know there's other social media channels. Or do you guys do your own social media, like individually or as a band? Or, you know, here's an opportunity. Where do we go? Where do we go to get more Soul Sign?
Well, I just Soul Sign, period. Actually, on X, which used to be Twitter, we're actually under All Star Rock. You can search for Soul Sign, but it either way. But then, well, I think we're Soul Sign 8 on TikTok, but Facebook and Instagram is Soul Sign. And obviously, you know, Mark Boals can be found on all the socials. I think most of them, and me as well. And just type in the names. And I think Mark and I are the only band members that are on TikTok, but we're on all the other stuff, most of us. So our Facebook, to answer your question, I think our social media is probably more updated and a better source of information. Really, we had to rebuild the website and get a different even domain name and a different server and all that stuff. So they were still working on that. So I still think the Facebook is probably, and Instagram is probably better ways to sort of see what's going on and listen
Yeah,
to
yeah.
news.
I'll throw those on there. Mark, what's your favorite? What's your favorite social media that you like to interact on?
None of them. No, did I say that?
You
No,
can. Listen, no, man, you can. I get it. I get it. You mentioned
Uh,
X or whatever, but do you
no,
or do you like to?
so much time out of your day, and it takes time away from me doing music. So I'm really behind on those kind of things, and I depend on other people to do a lot of that for me. But I need to get more into it, and I don't really have a favorite. I just don't like any of it, but
No, I
and
get it. Listen, I get it. I understand.
I not with the times. I don't know. Just it seems.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what you're on. We're gonna find you. Sure.
Thank you for
No,
that.
it's very time consuming, and unfortunately, as a musician, you almost have to be on there. And sometimes it's a drag when you have some news and you have all these different outlets to post on. You know, you got to post it like 12 times, and it's you know, I understand why people hire people to do it for them.
Yeah, it really is. Like even as we do this, you know, it's the decision of, man, why do I have to post the same message on 7 different platforms, right? And then some people, you just make a decision. You go, look, you want to follow me? I'm on this platform. That's it. Follow me here. I'm not doing this 7 times. It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to thank you for coming and spending this time with me and the folks who are going to listen to us, sharing your history, your thoughts, some new stories that you gave us here, some real treats. We all hope to be part of the Soul Sign story moving forward. I do. You know, if we haven't been yet, is there anything else you'd like to leave us with before you head out?
Mark?
No, go ahead, Bjorn. I just want to say thanks for having us here, and I'm really looking forward to this music getting out there, and I hope you know, that other people, that we get some attention from this stuff, because we're doing some really good stuff, and it's going to be a really great live band. There's a lot. We have a lot to give, so look out for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to going wherever, worldwide, and getting the music out to everybody, you know, real soon. So
From home, that is Mark Boals and Bjorn Englen, who continue to shine on as they share their music and dream always in the presence of you, as together we find the sign of your soul. Whether that is in the white room or simply out of obsession, it's all part of life that you control. I will have all of Soul Sign's contact info in the show notes. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Bjorn. I wish you and the band well, and I hope that we can catch up again.
Thank you
you
so
very much.
much.
Take care.